The issues of copyright infringement or counterfeiting of trademarks has been widely discussed globally. However, compared to other countries in the world, these issues in Vietnam are still being taken lightly. In this article, we would like to focus on what will happen to shopkeepers or brands that are cloned and impact the Vietnamese economy. The target groups or stores and brands specializing in producing and supplying food and household goods. Currently, most of the prestigious, famous, and popular brands in the market are at risk of being copied. In the face of the disappearance of a series of stores, from an economic point of view, had caused the original stores to be damaged in terms of revenue, exclusivities, and product price. This is also related to elasticities of the market. The survey showed that fake brands appear everywhere and challenge the level of gourmet customer. So, the question is to find the advantages and disadvantages from the perspective of consumers and producers. Consumers can easily come across the street with a lot of bars selling the same type of products, from brand names to decorations. Even the type of invitation is also different. Especially, any shop claims right on the billboard, this is a genuine family brand, and strangers can be opened right next to each other, but not with the owners. This brings the diversities of price segmentation choices for customers, but also comes with a risk of scandals. And obviously, this is a big benefit for new stores because the numbers of customers seem to be the same every month, and this is detrimental to the original stores. Of course, what we are talking about here is simply price elasticities, but it has a bad impact on the products of the store or the brands that are masquerading. We want to look at the economic story behind these problems and relate them more broadly. This is a microeconomic project reported by a group of college students. We want to learn and analyze the hidden behind the story of fake brains and the consequences it brings to the original brains by the learned knowledge. Before going any further, let's take a brief look at the concepts of price elasticities in microeconomics. Firstly, availabilities of close substitutes. Goods with close substitutes, example, breakfast cereals, tend to have more elastic demand because it is easier for consumers to switch. Secondly, necessities versus luxuries. Necessities, example, foods, tend to have inelastic demands, whereas luxuries, example, cell books, have elastic demand. Next, definition of the market. Narrowly defined markets, example, blue jeans, tend to have more elastic demand than broadly defined markets, example, clothes, because it is easier to find clothes substitutes for narrowly defined goods. Finally, time horizon. Goods tend to have more elastic demand over longer time horizons. Example, short-run versus the long-run effect of an increase in gasoline's price on demand for gas. Next, before starting the analysis, we conducted interviews with university students about their own choices. So, we will ask them some questions in the survey below, then got the following result. Did you know that a certain store becomes famous and then a series of stores open up intending to replicate that popularity? 87.5% of people know this, and some don't care or have never heard of it. Then, we refer to store names that are quite familiar to Vietnamese people. Going into the main part of the survey, we assume that the surveyors act as real customers. They know well what is the original store and which is a fake one. If the original store offers a product at a higher price than the others, which would you choose? Most of our customers have proven themselves to be smart consumers. Up to 48.3% of the total list prioritize product qualities instead of paying attention to copyright factors. However, there are still some people who still support the original store. Some of the reason that they respect the stories of the original store making the products. They respect the creativity, the original. However, because most of the surveyors are students, choosing a place with a suitable price also accounts for a large part of the survey results. Next, we will examine how much people understand or care about the damage caused by brand imitation to the original stores. Then, The numbers saw us not surprised with as a result. More than 60% of survey respondents do not care about the damage to the original stores and brands. That reflects the realities of customers in Vietnam, that they do not care too much about the brands or where the original is. The qualities of products and service come first. Above all, brands and stores have not paid attention to the value of the brand and the consequences of being copied.
Generally, when someone takes advantage of the lexical brand name, there may be some pros and cons of this for both sides, the original store and the imitated one. Not only that, it also affects the customer. Firstly, we will talk about benefits. That sounds hard to believe, but for some kinds of products, they can benefit from this. Let's take the example of the fashion industry. If the face is sophisticated enough to convince you that it's the real, the brain will react in the same way that we see the real. We only believe what we want to. That is, so basically, this causes free. Fashion lovers often want to appear to have a unique mindset and taste, unaffected by trend or communities. However, most of it often serve according to common sense or imitation. The problem is when that genuine piece of fashion that they spend a lot of money on is counterfeited and become too popular, they will find that the thing suddenly becomes saturated and severely devalued. Real is still sold with a high-priced goods, ridiculous price, in limited quantity. When people have the mentality of wanting to be different, people are rather being equated. So they continue to pile money into newer, more expensive items. The thirst for branded goods is scary, sometimes even more than the thirst for gold. In addition to free advertising, counterfeit goods are also considered as a threshold to the purchase of the real. Not 100% of people who use face will use face for life, maybe because of perception, but mainly economic conditions. In the end, there's no doubt that counterfeiting is one of the measures of brand success. Only products that are attractive and have a tremendous effect will be fake. If one is the owner of the valuable fashion brand, she will feel more concerned than comfortable if no one wants to copy their brand name. For the customer, they have more choices. It depends on their conditions, especially on their income. With higher income, people tend to want and only want to buy the real or luxury one. But for the low income one, that is not the point of buying just a ridiculous right product when they can buy the cheaper one with the same appearance or utility. But that is not the way it always happens in reality. The fact is, counterfeits exist on the market and do intense damage to legitimate goods. Counterfeits, poor quality goods, have such a diversity in designs, flexibility in prices, and are rich in especially dangerous types. The danger is so in that, besides causing economic damage to the owner, it also seriously affects to the health of customers. Typically, fat and poor quality foods, drinks, and medicines cause the disease to fragile and do harm to those who are gullible, ignorant, and long for a cheap one. From an economic point of view, fat and imitation goods rarely affect the profits of genuine production. The obvious negative impact is that it makes the original manufacturer compete with the fake one. They must change their price until they provide a good product. Gross electricity because of the appearance of the substitute products with the cheaper price. Moreover, about their reputation, it is risks the original businesses, misleading customers, resulting in turning them away to the product because of the poor quality goods. Take the example of the toy industry. Counterfeiting of toys, either through illegal copying or the production of near copies, is of the increasing concern for the industry. Not only does it cause financial losses, more importantly, but it also involves serious health and safety risks to small children. the main problem area for the toy industry in China. Nintendo, the largest producer of video game products, claims that Chinese Taipei, and Hong Kong, China are the largest resources of counterfeit video games in the world. Trading pirated software is said to be carried out through cartel with connection in three countries and the United States. The operation of these cartels cost some 800 million United States dollars in losses to the U.S. market for Nintendo in 1996. Reuters News Service 1997.
In actuality, plagiarism in stores occurs frequently. For some stores, this may have a small impact, but for others, it may have a significant impact. Now, let's take a look at some examples.
Nhà hàng bún chả Đắc Kim thông báo, cửa hàng bún chả số 1 Hàng Mành bên cạnh là giả mạo, xin quý khách lưu ý. Chuyện buôn có hội bán có phường vốn chẳng mấy lạ lùng trong văn hóa kinh doanh của người Việt. Cớ sao chủ quán bún chả này lại gay gắt đến vậy nhỉ?
Đắc Kim là tên của ông Đắc và bà Kim. Thì quán mình đã có được từ năm 1966 rồi. Khách hàng vào nhà mình, họ có nói rằng là có phải mình mới mở ở ngay hai bên cạnh không? Thì mình bảo là không có ạ. Thì khách họ nói rằng là tại vì chị sang đấy chở hai bên là một à? Thì họ bảo là vâng, đây là em ông Đắc. Thực ra là khi người ta đã nói đến cái như vậy rồi, mình sẽ không thể nào là từng khách hàng một mình đi giải thích, hay là mình cũng không thể nào mình sang để cãi nhau hay gì được cả. Mình buộc phải treo một cái biển như vậy.
Thôi thì đủ thứ cách để phòng vệ, từ in bằng cả tiếng Anh cho khách du lịch đỡ nhầm lẫn, đến trưng bày đủ thứ chứng nhận mình mới là quán bún chả số 1 Hàng Mành đích thực. Nhưng chỉ cần nhìn sang đối diện thôi, chẳng mấy ai có thể phân biệt được hai quán có phải là cùng một chủ hay không. Vì từ màu sắc biển hiệu cho đến cái tên số 1 Hàng Mành cũng không khác gì nhau mấy. Chỉ khác là quán nhân bản có chữ ngon, nhỏ đến căng cả mắt ra mới thấy được. Hóa ra là lấy tên số 1 Hàng Mành, dù địa chỉ của mình là số 2, số 3, vân vân và vân vân.
Về cái tên phố, nó là một cái tên chung thì mình không thể nào mà đăng ký là ví dụ như cả cái cụm từ bún chả Hàng Mành cả. Thì mình mới có, trước khi mình đăng ký thì mình có trình bày với họ và mình có nói rằng là hiện tại là bây giờ mình đang bị như thế này, đang bị rất nhiều cơ sở nhà như này, và họ cũng đã rất ưu ái khi cho mình sử dụng cả cái cụm từ là bún chả Hàng Mành Đắc Kim.
Hà Nội không hiếm những cửa hàng mượn danh gia truyền, chính hiệu nhằm đánh lạc hướng khách hàng, mà chính xác là cạnh tranh không lành mạnh. Một cửa hàng thành công là cả phố ăn theo cả đến cái tên, địa chỉ.
Ở đây là cái chỗ này là 47 thật, thế còn đây là 57, trước kia là 65. Đây là cái hàng này là cái hàng số lẻ.
Đến 7 nhưng mà vẫn đây là 47.
Không, 47 là nó mượn cái số ở bên này.
Những thương hiệu gia truyền nổi tiếng cho đến ngày nay đều trải qua thời gian thử thách khốc liệt mới có thể chiếm được lòng tin và sự yêu thích của khách hàng. Do đó, thật không công bằng nếu như buông lỏng quản lý để cho các cơ sở kinh doanh giả mạo, mượn tên tùy tiện để phục vụ cho lợi ích kinh doanh trước mắt và làm xấu đi hình ảnh thương hiệu lâu năm mới có thể xây dựng được.
From the perspective of its sellers, any restaurant that copies the well-known original products with initial benefits in a certain way, they still have a certain numbers of clients who are familiar with the products and are prepared to pay money to utilize it. So they don't need to invest in advertising or spend time building a brand. The following issues with brand imitation might arise from the perspective of the consumer. Counterfeit retailer with poorer service and product quality may have an impact on customers' buying experience for items that are already well known and branded. While having several funny stores with outdated names would provide them with more alternatives in terms of pricings and qualities for mid-range and low reputation items. According to economists, when fake stores start to arise, weak stores can meet the demands of customers despite the benefits of original items, such as prestige, product qualities, good service, etc. The market share winner is. In other instances, the ancestral recipes will allow the original parties to continue operating, gradually growing the brand and putting an end to imitations. There will also be instances where the counterfeiters, who has a greater understanding of the market and consumer reference, will triumph over the genuine item. Brand counterfeiting is a significant issue right now. Many people decide to copy already established brands rather than investing the effort in creating their own. The original items are negatively impacted by this. Here are some potential fixes for these issues. Firstly, establish a recognizable brain identity by leveraging recurrent brain components. Colors, spellings, typeface, dimensions, combinations, and other aspects of brain components must all be used consistently in both position and terminology. In order for trademarks to be used consistently and understood by everyone, the company should create a rule or handbook on how to utilize them. Brand components can be modified in future to suit changing market circumstances. Secondly, label symbols stored. Businesses must keep enough documentation of the use of well-known trademark phrases in their business endeavors. The basis recognized by the business owner as being significant by their certificate using with is evidence of prior ongoing usage, such as a sample package with a previous manufacturing date, a quality, food, safety, hygiene certificate, etc. Results of sales, a network agent, examples of averse from television and print, taking part in fairs with a photographic or video resources, search results and user survey criteria, etc. A law on recognizing well-known marks exists in Vietnam. As their similar tests to obtain a patent for another brand will be more stringent and protected in all types of goods and services. It is recognized as a well-known trademark and will be particularly advantageous for protection. In general, there are positive and negative effects of stealing from popularity springs. When it can foster greater competition to provide services of a higher caliber, it has a good impact. According to the poll, brand names and price are not really factors that shoppers worry about. They are more concerned with the calibers of their service. Furthermore, healthy competition is always favored. But because of how fierce and competitive it is, unfair competition could occur. Not all imitated brands will be prosperous. Due to the follow-up retailers' reliance on well-known brands' reputation, when those companies face difficulties, several issues result. That's the end of our report. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.